Stop slipping and stop cutting your socks. We have 15 different color options between 3 grip socks and 2 sleeve types. Something for everybody at a price that just makes sense. Available now at puregripsocks.com.
If you were playing in an important, serious match, I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of us would want to perform at the highest level possible, with the football boots we choose to wear definitely being a factor in performing optimally. Where all the latest boots, through their marketing material, promise some form of performance benefit. But what if I told you that training in these boots in particular could actually make you a better player when it comes to match day? Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the classic and iconic Adidas Mundial Team turf boots that are now finally available in the reverse white and black, which I personally think looks fantastic. It's effectively a turf variation of the classic Copa Mundial. However, they are at least a little bit less expensive, retailing for $160, which is a price tag that has been adjusted for inflation, because when I first started making videos on this channel, the Mundial Team retailed for $90. Now I know what you're thinking, what on earth is this guy on about? How is a pair of Mundial Teams going to make me a better player come match day? And stick with me on this one, but I'm sure we've all heard the story of a young Cristiano Ronaldo training with ankle weights on to make his feet faster come match day when he's obviously not wearing those same weights. That's kind of how I view the Adidas Mundial Team in 2024, in that the touch is great, the comfort is fantastic, and I actually think this turf outsole is one of the best on the market still to this day. However, compared to modern football boots, they are nearly double the weight. I'm not saying there's guaranteed performance gains to be had here, but train in heavy boots, play in light boots if you're looking to, at the very least, feel lighter on your feet come match day. I can't think of a better way to do it. So with that in mind, in today's video, we're going to take a closer look at the Mundial Team, which for my younger viewers might not have ever really seen these before. We're going to talk about what's good, what's bad, of course how they fit and feel on feet, and ultimately whether or not these are genuinely worth $160 in 2024. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, and if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can pick them up below their normal retail price in either white and black or black and white via the first link down below by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes. And as always, if you enjoy these unsugar-coated, brutally honest reviews on the channel, don't forget to drop a like on the video and make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2024. So first things first, let's take a look and talk about the weight of the Mundial Team, because I think that's by far going to be the most shocking aspect of these boots compared to just about everything else. They are significantly heavier than even a regular pair of Copa Mundials, and to do that comparison, I have a pair of Adidas F50 Elites, the top end model, both in the same size 9.5 US. We'll throw on the F50s on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.7 ounces, the equivalent of 190 grams. Very lightweight for a pair of top-end speed boots, but that's exactly what you'd expect. And then we have the Mundial Team, and you can see that they weigh in at 14.4 ounces, the equivalent of 408 grams, which for those doing the math at home is more than double the weight of these F50s, and you could realistically say the same about most top-end football boots. The Mundial Team, by modern standards, there's no other way to put it, is quite heavy, and you feel it. Definitely not to the point where they're unwearable, but noticeably heavier than anything else, which for training in particular, I don't necessarily think would be the worst thing in the world. But what about the fact that this is technically a turf shoe? Why would we be comparing it to a pair of FG football boots? Well, I think if you play on super soft ground, this maybe wouldn't be the best option, but for those of you that play on slightly harder, firm, natural grass playing surfaces, and certainly if you play on artificial grass, these turf nubs, as you can see, are significantly longer and more aggressive than what you're going to find on just about any other turf shoe, making it an excellent option, especially if you play on artificial grass, from a traction and comfort perspective to basically be a substitute for an AG stud pattern or even an FG stud pattern, which so many people wear on artificial grass anyways. With the solid rubber outsole definitely being a major reason why these are as heavy as they are. Not only are they solid rubber across the bottom of the foot, all of these little nubs are made from solid rubber as well, and it even wraps across the forefoot and toe box area, connected by some nylon stitching, meaning that from a durability perspective, especially if you're finding that you're wearing through football boots on artificial grass really quickly, something like this from a longevity perspective is just super tough to beat. These are about as rugged a pair of football boots as you can get these days, and a lot of that does have to do with the extra material and weight that it has just to help hold itself together. The lighter you make a pair of football boots, the less durable they're going to be. So obviously if you go in the opposite direction, you get the opposite effect. These are built to last. And what I also love about this outsole is how aggressive the nubs actually are. Something that I've never been a fan of when it came to wearing turf shoes in particular is that you just don't feel the same grip as having actual studs. And while this definitely isn't going to be a substitute for a studded AG or even FG stud pattern, it still offers more bite when pushing off than pretty well any other turf outsole that I've personally ever worn. So for that reason, I'm a big fan of it. Also, you'll find that it does have a foam midsole, meaning that it is slightly elevated in the heel, like you'll find for most turf shoes, but as a whole, underfoot, it feels very solid, has good flexibility without lacking in structure. And I think in particular, if you play on artificial grass outdoors in the summertime in an area where it tends to be quite hot, you know how hot the playing surface can be. This thick rubber with the midsole as well does a really good job of dispersing heat and making the experience of playing on a hot artificial grass playing surface significantly more tolerable, and I think more importantly, allow you to train or even play a match without suffering blisters. As far as the upper is concerned, obviously the overall design is mirrored off of the classic Copa Mundial. However, there are some key differences. The first of which is going to be the suede that wraps through the toe box and forefoot area as an additional protective layer on what can be a very abrasive surface in artificial grass. And then you have the fact that the Mundial team, unlike the Copa Mundial, is not made in Germany, which I think makes people automatically assume that you're going to get a lower quality product from a build perspective, but I genuinely don't find that to be the case here. With this particular pair of Mundial teams, the quality standard seems to be the same as it has always been. However, what has potentially changed is the type of leather, where there's a strong possibility that the newer pairs of Mundial teams are calfskin rather than kangaroo leather like the Copa Mundial. And the reason why I say that is on Adidas's own website, they list it as premium leather rather than kangaroo leather, where on the product page for the classic Copa Mundial, they do actually say kangaroo leather. And if I compare them to my older pair of Mundial teams that I still actually use to this day, the production date on the tag for this particular pair is 2011, so they're 13 years old. If you take a look at the slight shine to the leather, granted they're in a different color, and also just the plushness that you can see in between each of the stitches, it's very clearly different on this newer pair. And I actually have a pair of black ones as well that again look exactly like these and feel exactly like these in terms of the leather itself. I do think that this older pair is a little bit softer and slightly more plush because we know for a fact that this is kangaroo leather, but it does appear that they have at the very least changed the style of leather at least slightly. Does it make for that big of an impact in terms of feel? Not really, but I do think they're not quite as soft as what they once were. Type of leather aside, the quality is still fantastic, and I think above and beyond what you're gonna find from most products at this $160 price point. So personally, kangaroo leather or calfskin, I don't think it matters all that much. The feel of the leather is still top notch, giving you that very consistent, more padded feel across the entire foot because every part of the upper, including the tongue, is made from the same leather material. So from a consistency perspective, I love that about the Mundial Team. Obviously, if you're wearing these in training and then planning on wearing something different in a match, going from a more padded feel to potentially a thinner feel, depending on which boots you're switching into, might be a bit of a concern. Obviously, everyone's a little bit different there when it comes to feel and preferences. If you wear leather boots anyways, I don't think this is going to be much of a transition for you. But again, the fact that these feel as nice as they do might open a lot of people's eyes up to how good leather boots actually feel, because it is a style of football boot that is seemingly going away, but the Mundial Team is keeping it alive. I think if you like a padded feel, these are fantastic. And if you're just looking to try something different, you might be surprised at how much you like the all-over leather sensation that the Mundial Team has on offer. Across the top of the foot, you'll find a central lacing system with a traditional U-throat construction and standalone tongue. Of course, you are going to get that giant fold-over flap tongue that is a signature of the Mundial Team and Copa Mundial, where you kind of have the option of folding it down, which takes a little bit of time to get it to stay down. You can leave it up, you can cut it off. It's totally a matter of personal preference. And then of course the boots do feature a low cut design where they actually come up a little bit higher on the sides than the average football boot does these days, which from a support and kind of lockdown perspective is well above average compared to a lot of football boots, where again, if you want to feel like you're safe in training, I'm not sure that anything feels quite as safe as these do. You have an internal plastic heel counter. You also have a smooth leather lining material that doesn't have a lot of padding, but feels incredibly comfortable for whatever reason. And then the insole is technically glued in and non-removable, which again is kind of an old school thing that you're also going to find with the classic Copa Mundial. Something more premium would definitely be appreciated, but honestly, it doesn't feel like this football boot needs it. On feet, there's no doubt that the Mundial Teams are super comfortable, but there's also no doubt that they feel quite a bit different than most readily available football boots or turf shoes for that matter. The first thing that you'll notice is that the upper is just significantly more padded than what you're going to find from the vast majority of options, but also incredibly soft, where because this is a style of football boot that I don't think very many people have tried at this point, I think you'd be surprised at how comfortable these are should you give them an opportunity. In terms of overall fit and width, they have plenty of width to them. They have plenty of volume. It's one of those boots that's going to work super well for just about everybody. Even if you do have really wide feet, especially after some wear time, that leather is going to stretch and mold to the shape of your feet. The only time I could see these potentially being an issue from a fit perspective is if you had exceptionally narrow feet, in which case these might end up being a little bit too wide, but that is a scenario that I would say is fairly unlikely. As far as the feel of the outsole is concerned, the heel is slightly elevated, and there is actually an element of arch support to the feel of this outsole, which is not something you're going to find for most indoor or turf shoes. They tend to be quite flat, so I really like that about these as well. It just adds to the overall comfort. And as far as sizing is concerned, unlike a normal Copa Mundial where you have to go down a full size, the Mundial Team does have normal sizing. So I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is pretty much perfect. Of course, they're leather and they are going to stretch after some wear. So if you're currently wearing your boots with a little bit of extra room, going half a size down might not be a bad idea for these, but I think for the vast majority who are already wearing their boots quite snug, going true to size should set you up for the best possible fit after some break-in time. So in conclusion, despite some noticeable changes from older pairs, I do still think the latest variation of the Mundial Team is a fantastic value for money, particularly if you're after that all-over leather sensation. With that said, they're also not football boots that I think the vast majority of people these days would want as their primary pair. While there's no doubt that they fit well and are incredibly comfortable, by modern standards, they are incredibly heavy and on the bulkier, or at least more padded side compared to most of the modern stuff, which is not what a lot of people are looking for. But like I talked about at the very beginning of the video, if you like the idea of feeling as light on your feet as possible in a match, wearing and training in a pair of Mundial Teams might not be a bad way to achieve that sensation. When it comes to playing on more shallow turf or even artificial grass surfaces, the Mundial Team is still my personal go-to. I think it's just the best outsole you can get in the turf category, and despite them being as heavy as they are, I'll take the little bit of extra weight for the sake of a lot more comfort. But let me know what you think. Would you wear a pair of Mundial Teams in 2024?